My name is Bill. 8 conspiracy theories about outer space. The idea that the moon landing was faked is just the beginning, and we're starting right now. Here's an article at stillunfold.com, written by Augustus Perez, entitled 5 Secret Space Programs Operated under the U.S. Air Force and the United Nations Authority. And Mr. Perez begins, there's a kind of debate about whether the secret program is real or a myth. However, people need to understand that maybe space operations seem quite secretive, but it can be an illustration. Not many people understand this, which is why secret space bases are a thing in pop culture. Many agree there are some space programs operated by the U.S. government and other countries, away from the public eye, and without the public knowing they're even happening. While on the other hand, many people still want to figure out what is the SSP, standing for Secret Space Program. While the SSP is a categorized operation belonging to the U.S. Air Force and United Nations Authority, it's been operating since 1980. They have also been known to merge with different countries, societies, and programs. Let's find out about one of them here. Number 1, Solar Warden. And this is what our art is going to be about, the Solar Warden program. Solar Warden is the popular secret program that has been in operation since the late 90s. This program is run by the U.S. Fleet, responsible for monitoring all incoming and outgoing traffic, and monitoring alien traffic in the solar system. It monitors a specific geographic area and preserves our solar system. The Solar Warden is also known as Radiant Guardian, which is divided into 2 fleets, a military/offensive defensive fleet, and a scientific research and development fleet. Although the program was unknown to the public, awareness of it was largely spread by Gary McKinnon when he hacked into computers of the U.S. Space Command many years ago and found the existence of non-terrestrial officers, along with fleet-to-fleet transfers under a program called Solar Warden. However, later on, he was charged with committing the biggest military computer hack by the Bush Justice Department. Also, he found there's approximately 8 cigar-shaped motherships and 43 smaller scout ships, and all the fleets are operated under Air Force Space Command. It had also been said that the program was operated and tested from a secret military base, much like Area 51. Well, Project Solar Warden has been around for many years, and as of yet has not been successful because of the directional nodes burning up as the solar waves make contact with them. If found to be real, this would change views on space exploration and space travel. Dark Fleet. There's another program, Dark Fleet. It is the German secret space program. This is a bit different from the one of the Air Force. In contrast to the regular U.S. Air Force and Navy, this covert fleet of ships and aircraft were all in a dark shade in terms of its protection alliance and security classification. So it is good to call it Dark Fleet, which is what Secret Space Program insider Corey Goode says about it, according to his confidential sources. He says that it is somehow different to another Dark Fleet, which is a space secret program that operates in deep space, having similar-looking carrier craft that look quite like the Star Wars-shaped speeder bikes in the movies. The insiders of this program worked outside the solar system. They're very martial and a bit outrageous. They worked alongside the Vader Alliance and are speculated to fight alongside them in their affairs and other systems. This secret space program works entirely with Draco Federation Alliance, the reptilians. But it worked almost entirely outside the solar system. The most interesting thing is that different types of directed energy weapons are showcased in the Dark Fleet secret space program in order to reflect what they look like and how they work. The Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. The ICC is one of the secret space programs uncovered by Corey Goode. which is now handled by schmutzes from Antarctica. This particular space program is mainly focused on evolution and the acquisition of technology. They tend to produce technology in barter systems and store most of the high and advanced technology. It sounds like English was not this writer's first language. Basically, it is a wide infrastructure in space that produces extremely high technology for human breakaway civilizations and civilizations from other star systems. The ICC is a combination of corporations that have come together, combined their resources, and created a vast infrastructure in our solar system. It also enriches aerospace technologies. Also, there's a wide barter system in which human trafficking happens in order to gain new technology. Surprisingly, the ICC has over 100 colonies, bases, and industrial plants on the Moon, Mars, and several other moons and bodies in our solar system. There are also many free-floating space stations that have personnel crew and are fully operational on a regular basis. Then you come to the Global Galactic League of Nations. As we know that a secret space program was created for the UN member states in the early 90s that had agreed to cooperate for an alien invasion. Corey Good identified that the mood on the Global Galactic League of Nations, the GGLN, moon base, contrasted 180 degrees as compared to the Mars colonies controlled by the ICC. Yeah, this guy doesn't make much sense. It's just so hard to read his stuff. Let's do some art.
Space pilot Mark Richards did fly to Saturn with an alien craft which had consciousness, and now he sits in jail because of his information. So there's absolutely secret space program going on, and NASA, of course, from the beginning has been a military, not just civilian organization, and it has two parts, the secret one and the official one, and like they say, NASA never a straight answer, because all the information that comes in mass media is normally disinformation. General George Joland was giving a speech. He was at that time the NATO Commander-in-Chief of Europe. I asked him what he meant about the NATO report from 1964, which was so secret that they only made 15 copies in the world for 3 languages, and there they revealed the reasons why the general public is not given information about our contacts with other civilizations. And number 1 reason was theology. All the dogma of all religions will crumble down. Number 2 reason was human ego. We are the ants. Number 3 reason was our economy will crumble. And number 4 was that the laws of physics, as we know, they're not the same as we think in the universe. I was living in Geneva, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Finnish Air Force, General Rauno Merja, was in Jyväskylä in Finland, where we have our Air Force headquarters. And we had 1 hour's interview. And there he revealed, 91, that Japanese had already exceeded the speed of light.
So this secret space program thing, do you guys think it's primarily ET, or is it human beings, or maybe are they working together?
Both.
Since the 1960s, we have been test flying and flying craft which have been derived from alien recovered vehicles. The technology has been around since the 1960s. I can tell you that a number of astronauts and various pilots from different countries, particularly the United States, have flown these craft, including Gordon Cooper, who I knew. And there is definitely a secret space program, and has been for quite a long while.
If there's one motive, like one primary source why they would do this, what do you think that would be?
I think one possible reason is that this planet's in trouble and we need to establish colonies elsewhere. And some of the aliens who are on our side, if you like, who want to help us out of compassion, have lent us a lot of their technologies. I've been to Puerto Rico a lot because it's an alien base and a lot goes on there. I'm 100% certain. And so are most of the islanders. The creatures that are seen typically in Puerto Rico have bug eyes, which I don't know of any humans who have them like that. They are based all around the island, in the oceans around the island and on the island itself. For example, in the El Yunque rainforest.
There's lots of evidence from people who have seen UFOs or experienced alien abductions, and also from the evidence from the government, and all that adds up.
Different ETs were fighting in the beginning, and now I believe that we've joined and that we're fighting with some in support. And there is an ET that's been a guardian to fight off others, and now they've asked us to share in some of the fight, some of the battle, and support them. We are going out into deep space. Mars and other planets are being traveled to regularly, and we have patrol craft going around the planet all the time. The human race is a foolish race, not standing up to find out the truth. It's just not possible to stay stupid and stay ahead.
Here at BonnerCountyDailyBee.com is an article entitled Massive Solar Flare Kill Shot May Be Imminent. And the author begins, the radio program Coast to Coast has been talking a lot about the kill shot, a massive solar flare / EMP event that the Earth will be receiving from the sun. What will a kill shot do? Go on the internet and type in the Carrington event, and you will learn what can happen. This event was in 1859. And NASA scientists say that if it happened today, it would take out all communications satellites and possibly most, if not all, of the world's power grids and electronic equipment. Right now, the sun's magnetic poles are shifting, which happens about every 11 years. What is different about it this time is that the sun's north magnetic pole has begun shifting and its south magnetic pole has not. Solar scientists have never seen this before and are confused as to what this means. The author writes, "It is my feeling that this has to be creating an imbalance on the sun and may well be the precursor to the kill shot that many expect will happen this September." Now there's something you can do to protect some of your electronic equipment. Build a Faraday cage and put what you can within it. YouTube has videos on how to construct one. Major Edward Dames, retired, a frequent guest on Coast to Coast, was the creator of the remote viewing program for the U.S. Army, and his people could not see beyond 2013. It was with this remote viewing program that they saw two events that are believed to be precursors to the kill shot. The first is North Korea setting off a nuclear weapon in anger. And secondly, a space shuttle will be forced back to Earth because of a meteor shower. It is believed by Dames that when this shuttle is forced back to Earth, the kill shot is imminent. Written by Lee Santa. We also have this story at express.co.uk, written by Nathan Rao, and entitled Apocalypse Now, Killer Solar Superstorm Could Destroy Earth at Any Moment, Scientists Warn. Violent solar superstorms could destroy life as we know it. Shocked scientists warned today. It's only a matter of time before a catastrophic eruption on the surface of the sun hurtles towards the planet with devastating consequences. The Earth could be the target of an explosion equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs exploding at the same time. Crisis meetings have been held to discuss how to limit the damage of solar superstorms, which present a long-lasting threat to all forms of life. Scientists warn communication systems will be crippled. Vital services such as transport, medicine, and sanitation will close. And loss of power will plunge the planet into darkness. Ashley Dale, member of the International Task Force SolarMax, set up to identify the risks of a solar storm, said without power people would struggle to fuel their cars at petrol stations and get money from cash dispensers or pay anything online. Water and sewage systems would be affected too, meaning that health epidemics in urbanized areas would quickly take a grip, with diseases we thought we had left behind centuries ago, returning to haunt us. The warning comes as Britain is experiencing one of the hottest summers on record. Scientists have warned of highly unusual activity on the surface of the sun, which has already sent smaller solar flares spiraling towards our planet. The storms are triggered when CMEs, or coronal mass ejections from the sun, tear into the Earth's magnetic field, ripping it apart. This triggers huge surges of electrical currents, which lead to widespread power outages and destroy machineries which use electricity. Mr. Dale, currently writing a doctorate at Bristol University, says it is only a matter of time before a violent solar storm smashes into the Earth. He warned the planet is facing a repeat of the devastating solar superstorm of 1859, dubbed the Carrington event, after English astronomer Richard Carrington. He spotted a solar flare before terrifying fireballs hurtled across the atmosphere, making people think it was the end of the world. Reports followed of sparks showering from telegraph machines, out-of-control fires, and electrical operators being injured. Around 10 to the 22 power kilojoules of energy catapulted around 1 trillion kilos of charged particles toward the Earth at speeds of 12,000 miles per second. Mr. Dale said the solar superstorm could cause around $1.5 trillion of damage across the globe, wiping out communication systems and transport networks. That sounds like a low estimate to me. Just think of all the home electronics you're going to have to buy again. He said, "We have begun to realize these superstorms are large enough to cause serious damage, and they happen quite often, relatively speaking. It is only now, when we are so dependent upon electrical technology, that we are so vulnerable. And one of these storms is now overdue by 5 years. We are looking at a major event. It sounds like scaremongering, but it's not. There are very serious implications," end quote. Its impact on civilized life was relatively small back in 1859, as there was little to no reliance on electronics, except maybe the telegraph, sending messages. A similar event now would be nothing short of catastrophic. NASA scientists say the Carrington-level event happens every 150 years. The likelihood of one occurring within the next decade is as high as 12%. Scientists from SolarMax gathered at the International Space University in France, where they concluded that advanced space weather forecasting may be one of the solutions. This would give us around a week's notice of where and when solar storms will take place, and exactly how bad they will be. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it yesterday. Let's check out some art.
A major solar storm, like the Carrington event of 1859, could have cascading effects on our interconnected world, disrupting communication networks, crippling power grids, and jeopardizing critical infrastructure. The sun, seemingly calm in its celestial dance, erupts with a fury rarely witnessed by humankind. An X-class solar flare, a monster of energy, bursts from a sunspot cluster, aiming its wrath directly at our vulnerable planet. Within 8 minutes, the first sign of trouble arrives, a blinding flash of X-rays and gamma rays, invisible to the naked eye but detectable by our space weather sentinels. These high-energy photons slam into the Earth's upper atmosphere, ionizing the gases and disrupting radio communications. Almost immediately, shortwave radio frequencies fall silent, their signals drowned out by the solar static. Airliners crossing the poles lose contact with ground control, their navigation systems momentarily blinded by the solar storm. Meanwhile, the invisible threat is just beginning to reveal its true potential. Traveling at a slower pace, a massive coronal mass ejection, CME, a billion-ton cloud of charged plasma, races towards Earth at speeds exceeding 1,000,000 miles per hour. This CME, carrying the magnetic fury of the sun, holds the potential to cripple the technological systems that underpin modern civilization. As the CME slams into Earth's magnetic field, it triggers a geomagnetic storm of unprecedented intensity. The sky erupts in a dazzling display of auroras, visible as far south as Florida and Mexico. But this celestial light show is a deceptive beauty, masking the chaos unfolding below. The electrical grid, the backbone of our modern world, begins to falter under the onslaught of the solar storm. Transformers, those massive devices that regulate the flow of electricity across long distances, start to overheat and fail, their delicate circuitry overwhelmed by the surge of geomagnetically induced currents. One by one, power grids across the globe begin to collapse, plunging cities and entire regions into darkness. The sudden loss of power sends shockwaves through society. Hospitals struggle to keep life support systems running, relying on backup generators with limited fuel supplies. Traffic lights go dark, creating gridlock on already congested roads. Communication networks, already strained by the initial solar radio burst, begin to fail as backup batteries dwindle. The world, so accustomed to the constant hum of electricity, is plunged into a disorienting silence. After it's all over, the true extent of the disruption becomes horrifyingly clear. The global supply chain, reliant on just-in-time delivery and intricate logistics, grinds to a halt. Supermarket shelves, emptied by panic buying, remain bare. Gas stations, unable to pump fuel without electricity, become useless monuments to our dependence on fossil fuels. Access to clean water becomes a critical issue as water treatment plants shut down, their pumps silenced by the lack of power. Hospitals, overwhelmed with patients suffering from heat stroke, dehydration, and chronic illnesses exacerbated by the lack of medication, struggle to cope. The thin veneer of order begins to fray as fear and desperation grip the populace. Yet, amidst the chaos, the resilience of the human spirit shines through. Neighbors help neighbors, sharing food, water, and information. First responders work tirelessly to restore order, their efforts hampered by the lack of power and communication. Engineers race against time to repair the crippled power grid, their task made more challenging by the ongoing geomagnetic disturbances.
Thank you, guys. Here's a story at UFOAC.com. Entitled, He Guarded the Earth on Mars, Randy Cramer, hybrid soldier in the Earth Defense Force. Yes, you can give me some cookies. Unfortunately, I need to widen it a little bit. Sorry about that, people who can't see the comments from my head. And the author begins, in 2014, one of the U.S. Marines addressed the press with a statement about his desire to tell how secret military bases on Mars, built as part of the colonization program, function. The man used the pseudonym Captain K. His real name, Randy Cramer, began to appear only in subsequent interviews. He claimed that he spent 20 years of his service as part of a special unit of the U.S. Marine Corps outside our planet. For 17 years, he was on the territory of his secret base on Mars. After the disaster occurred, he had to serve on a spaceship for the next 3 years. According to Randy Cramer's statement, the government began colonizing Mars back in 1960, hiding the details of this project from the general public. In 1975, secret bases were already functioning on the surface of the planet, the official task of which was research activities. Refuting the lies regularly reported to the population of our planet, Randy reported that the planet is inhabited. Planet Mars, that is, and the amount of oxygen on Mars' surface is sufficient for human respiration. He personally guarded the borders near one of the northern bases. In this area, according to Captain K, the air is thin, similar to a mountain at an altitude of 4 to 5 kilometers. The bases were located under the surface of the planet. About 260 people in each of them, with their own mission. Randy Cramer was among those who engaged in security and patrolling territory. Together with his colleagues, this Marine had to explore the surrounding area and repel attacks by local residents. During his service, Randy Cramer repeatedly met with representatives of other civilizations. To the north of the base, there was a settlement of insect-like aborigines. To the south, reptilians. The reptilians showed more aggressiveness towards their neighbors, but it never came to open hostilities. The insect-like aliens preferred to live underground in burrows. Representatives of other intelligent species have settled on the surface of the planet. But the relationship with the aliens was not stable. They could ignore the presence of strangers or try to negotiate with them. But there were small skirmishes. He had to leave the planet in emergency mode due to the destruction of 2 bases as the result of an attack by dragon-like intelligent beings. The Aboriginals were able to repel the attack, but more than 500 Earth colonizers died. The people who survived the attack did not risk trying to get the bases located in the south. Instead, they left Mars. After returning to his home planet, Randy Cramer continued his service in the Marine Corps, observing all the secrecy requirements regarding the details of his previous assignment. Randy states the majority of the country's inhabitants are in serious danger. The technogenic development program chosen by mankind is gradually leading to the degeneration of the Earth. Therefore, in order to preserve human DNA, bases outside of it were created to ensure the security of genetic information. But gradually this program, about which only a narrow circle of people knew, was changed. Its ultimate goal was not to preserve human genetic material for the possibility of restoring the population, but to save only selected representatives of humanity. This explains the increased level of secrecy around this program. Randy warns that the government is trying to free the planet from superfluous people by concluding an appropriate deal with representatives of extraterrestrial civilizations. By unleashing a war so that the people have the opportunity to destroy each other on their own. To provoke an environmental catastrophe in densely populated areas, for example, an explosion of toxic substances near a megalopolis. The use of technology to subdue volcanoes, tsunamis, and earthquakes. Having spent a huge amount of effort to restore authentic information about his stay on Mars, Government agents try to change the memories of each member of the mission for their own safety. Randy is sure that people are trying to replace the population that grew up outside the Earth. A dangerous program to rid the planet of genetic garbage could already be started. Only knowledge can become a true weapon, capable of resisting such an insidious enemy as the leader of one's own country. Randy Cramer claims that by addressing the general public with a public statement, he does not violate his oath of secrecy. In accordance with Article 21 of Internal Regulations of the Marine Corps, an infantryman, with the consent of his superiors, has the right to appeal to citizens with the demand to make independent attempts to protect his own life, giving details of the impending threat.
We're going to meet somebody I've been waiting well over a year to have on, and I have manifested Captain Randy Cramer, finding himself inside of a starship and teaching some pretty fascinating stuff that we're going to get into. When you were on Mars at one point in one of your missions, you battled the reptilians. Mm-hmm. I've actually been called out once making a blanket statement about reptilians as though they're, bad, the bad guys. And somebody said, no, that race, there's good, bad, etc.
Oh, so, yeah, it's speciesist.
Exactly.
It's speciesism. Yeah.
And were you dealing with Martian reptilians, and did you ever get to know any, or did you just battle them?
Oh, yeah, the native indigenous reptoids are real nice. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. The ones that I got to meet and hang out with, we developed a trusting relationship, and I think they're real nice. But some of the other, they were pretty clear that some, especially the southern tribes, are pretty rough, and you're probably not going to make friends with them, and they're probably just going to eat you. So they're kind of, they have kind of a rough culture as far as what life and death means, and whether you get to come anywhere near their space and live because you crossed over a rock line that's like, nah, you're going to die now because you came over that line, versus whether they want to be nice or friendly. They're not mean-spirited by any means, in my experience. They're quite kind-hearted. They just have a very, very fierce attitude about boundaries. So they're pretty cool. The Draconians did attempt an invasion while we were there. That's a whole story. They're a different reptoid species from somewhere very far away. They look real different. They act real different. They behave real different. I hate them very much, and we killed them whenever possible. But that's, two completely different examples of a developed species that just happen to be reptiles. So yeah, it's speciesism to say that reptiles are bad. They're not.
Right. And then there's the insectoid mantid civilizations.
I've met more than one insectoid species that I would say, even when we say mantids, I don't think they look anything like a praying mantis. And I think culturally, socially, they're way more like ants than they are like mantises. Mantises are a very solitary insect. These are collective hive insects. It's much more like ants or termites, but more like ants, to be honest with you, as far as their sort of being productive and sort of industrious. So to me, they're more like an evolution of an ant species. So an evolution of, let's say, a wasp species. I've met, an advanced developed wasp species. They're assholes. They're just absolute assholes. So that's a completely different, expression, but they're also being evolved from two completely different kind of insects.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Here at thetimes.co.uk is an article entitled Miyake Events Still a Mystery After 10,000 Years, written by Paul Simons. And I have this to read on a text file because I had to cut it down in length a little bit. Something odd was seen in AD 774, as the Anglo-Saxon chronicles recorded. Quote, This year also appeared in the heavens a red crucifix after sunset. The red crucifix remains a mystery, but we know that the year 774 was when the Earth was battered by an extraordinarily powerful storm of radiation raining down from space. It's only a matter of time before another geomagnetic storm hits the Earth. Sooner or later, we will encounter another Miyake event, the geomagnetic storm of AD 774, which was probably the largest since the last ice age. Aside from the perhaps frightening play of light for people at the time, there were no consequences back then. But if we were to experience the Miyake event today, the consequences would be catastrophic for the world. We got a premonition of this on September 1st and 2nd, 1859, when telegraph systems around the world failed disastrously. Telegraph operators reported receiving electric shocks. Telegraph paper caught fire, and they were even able to power their equipment with unconnected batteries. In the evening, the aurora borealis, otherwise known as the Northern Lights, could be seen as far as Colombia in South America. What the world experienced that day, now known as the Carrington event, was a massive geomagnetic storm. These storms occur when a large bubble of superheated gas, called plasma, ejects from the surface of the sun and hits the Earth. This gas bubble is known as a coronal mass ejection. It could be worse. The Carrington event of 1859 is the largest recorded record of a geomagnetic storm, but it is not an isolated event. A geomagnetic storm 60% smaller than the Miyake event occurred around AD 993. Ice core samples have shown that large-scale geomagnetic storms of similar intensity to the Miyake and the Carrington events occur on average every 500 years. It gets even more scary when you compare the Carrington event to the Miyake event. Scientists were able to estimate the strength of the Carrington event based on fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field, as recorded by observatories at the time. There was no way to measure the magnetic oscillation of the Miyake event. Instead, the scientists measured the increase in carbon-14 in tree rings from that period. The Miyake event caused a 12% increase in carbon-14. By comparison, the Carrington event produced less than 1% of carbon-14. So the Miyake event spectacularly overshadowed the Carrington event. Today, a geomagnetic storm of the same intensity as the Carrington event would do much more damage and be catastrophic. With our ever-increasing dependence on electricity and emerging technology, any disruption could lead to billions of dollars in damage and also life-threatening situations. The storm will have massive effects on many of electrical systems that people use every day. Geomagnetic storms overload electrical components connected to the network, such as transformers, relays, and sensors, leading to widespread blackouts. A geomagnetic storm 3 times smaller than the Carrington event occurred in Quebec, Canada, in March of 1989. The storm caused the collapse of Quebec's hydroelectric grid. During the storm, a transformer was damaged in New Jersey, and 5 million people were without power for 9 hours. In addition to electrical faults, communications will be disrupted on a global scale. ISPs may be down, preventing different systems from communicating. High-frequency communications, such as land-to-air, shortwave, and ship-to-shore radio, will be disrupted. Satellites orbiting the Earth could be damaged. A geomagnetic storm would burn their circuit boards. This would lead to disruption in telephone communications, the internet, radio, and satellite television. Navigation systems may fail. In fact, every mode of transportation, from cars to planes, uses GPS for navigation and tracking. Even wearable devices such as cell phones, smart watches, and tracking tags rely on GPS signals sent by satellites. Military systems rely heavily on the GPS system for coordination. Other military detection systems, such as trans-horizon radar and submarine detection systems, can malfunction, hampering national defense. It's only a matter of time before another storm hits Earth. If the storm was as large as the Miyake event, the consequences would be catastrophic for the world. Let's check out that art. Here at bigthink.com is a story entitled Dark Forest Theory, a terrifying explanation of why you haven't heard from aliens yet. And it's written by Scotty Hendricks. And Mr. Hendricks begins. The Milky Way... My pronunciation today. The Milky Way galaxy has 200 billion stars and perhaps 100 billion planets. If even a small fraction of those planets harbored life, and even if only a pathetic scattering of those planets had life forms which became intelligent, our galaxy would be teeming with alien civilizations, some of whom would be either looking for us or discoverable by us. The number of alien civilizations the galaxy should have can be determined by an equation, the Drake equation, that turns the above factors into variables. When you plug them into the formula, you find there should be at least 20 civilizations in our cosmic neighborhood. This makes the fact that we have yet to find any other life in the cosmos almost shocking when you think about it. The seeming discord between how many advanced civilizations ought to be in space and the lack of evidence for any is known as the Fermi paradox. It has led to dozens of hypotheses and potential solutions over the last few decades. Many of the solutions aim at one of the variables in the Drake equation and try to make the supposed number of civilizations lower, so it is more reasonable for us not to have met anybody yet. Some propose that life starting at all is rare. Others suggest that the development of intelligence is the bottleneck. Still others posit that most civilizations would live for a short time before blowing themselves up. I'm in that category. Conversely, never even managed to invent the radio. One solution, however, is a bit darker than the others. The dark forest solution explains why we haven't heard from aliens, by positing that they are purposefully keeping quiet. The reasoning is laid out best in the science fiction novel The Dark Forest by Liu Cixin. The plot of the book, the second in a series, concerns questions of how to best interact with potentially hostile alien life. In the novel, the argument is laid out like this. All life desires to stay alive. There is no way to know if other life forms can or will destroy you if given a chance. Lacking assurances, the safest option for any species is to annihilate other life forms before they have a chance to do the same. Since all other life forms in the novel are risk-averse and willing to do anything to save themselves, contact of any kind is dangerous, as it almost assuredly would lead to the contacted race wiping out whoever was foolish enough to give away their location. This leads to all civilizations attempting to hide in radio silence. The reasoning behind the paranoia is explained in this paragraph from the novel. The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path and trying to tread without a sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter must be careful because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. If he finds another life, another hunter, angel or demon, a delicate infant to a tottering old man, a fairy or a demigod, there's only one thing he can do: open fire and eliminate them. It's a bit like the prisoner's dilemma, really, and the concept is based on applied game theory. It was also put forth by scientist David Brin as a potential solution to the lack of radio evidence for alien life. While the variant he describes relies on robotic probes carrying out the task of killing off civilizations, other than the one that created it, the core concept remains the same. In this excerpt, he explains why this solution is an attractive one for scientific purposes and terrifying for existential reasons. Quote, "It is consistent with all of the facts and philosophical principles described in the first part of this article. There is no need to struggle to suppress the elements of the Drake equation in order to explain the Great Silence, nor need we suggest that no ETs anywhere would bear the cost of interstellar travel. It need only happen once for the results of this scenario to become the equilibrium condition in the galaxy. We would not have detected extraterrestrial radio traffic, nor would any ETs have ever settled on Earth, because all were killed shortly after discovering radio." He then reminds us that broadcasts of I Love Lucy are racing across the cosmos, ready to reveal our location and sense of humor to anybody who can pick them up. Let's check out some art.
The dark forest hypothesis, a term coined by science fiction author Liu Cixin, proposes a haunting concept that could fundamentally change how we approach the search for extraterrestrial life to survive in a universe where civilizations are destined to clash. What if advanced civilizations are deliberately remaining silent, hiding from each other in a cosmic game of survival? Advanced civilizations may choose to remain silent or eliminate others to ensure their survival in a hostile universe. If an alien civilization detected our presence, would they be more likely to make contact or destroy us to avoid potential competition? In this scenario, the concept of survival of the fittest takes on a whole new meaning. Advanced civilizations might view other life forms as potential threats, mere obstacles to their own existence. It's possible that they've reached a level of technological advancement where the only way to guarantee their survival is to eliminate the competition, thereby ensuring their dominance in the universe. Are we merely pawns in an intergalactic game of risk and survival, or are we capable of achieving a higher level of cooperation and understanding with other civilizations? In the dark forest, a civilization's primary goal is self-preservation, and that's what makes it so terrifying. It's a universe where the strong prey on the weak, and where the rule of law is dictated by the most advanced and powerful civilizations. For instance, would a civilization that's hell-bent on survival be more likely to destroy an emerging civilization that poses a potential threat, even if that emerging civilization has the potential to coexist peacefully? In this dark forest of self-interest, can we really trust other civilizations to act in our best interests? Or would they prioritize their own survival above all else, even if it means eliminating us? Are we capable of transcending our own self-interest and working towards a common goal? Or are we doomed to repeat the patterns of the past, where might makes right? It's a hypothesis that's both terrifying and thought-provoking, forcing us to confront the darker aspects of our own nature and the true cost of survival in a hostile universe.
Here at NewYorkPost.com is an article by Reed Tucker entitled, "A Harvard Professor Says an Alien Visited in 2017, and More Are Coming." When the first signs of intelligent life visits us from space, it won't be a giant saucer hovering over New York. More likely it will be an alien civilization's trash. Avi Loeb, chair of Harvard's Department of Astronomy, believes he's already found some of that garbage. In his upcoming book, Extraterrestrial, The First Sign of Intelligent Life Beyond Earth, the professor lays out a compelling case for why an object that recently wandered into our solar system was not just another rock, but actually a piece of alien technology. The object in question traveled toward our solar system from the direction of Vega, a nearby star 25 light-years away, and intercepted our solar system's orbital plane in 2017. On September the 9th, its trajectory brought it closest to the sun. At the end of September, it blasted at about 6,000 miles per hour past Venus's orbital distance. And then on October 7, it shot past Earth's before moving swiftly toward the constellation Pegasus, Loeb writes in his book. The object was first spotted by an observatory in Hawaii containing the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System, PAN-STARRS, the highest definition telescope on Earth. The space object was dubbed Oumuamua, which is Hawaiian for scout. As space travelers go, it was relatively small, at just about 100 yards long, but it was a big deal in the scientific community. For starters, it was the first interstellar object ever detected inside our solar system. Judging from the object's trajectory, astronomers concluded it was not bound by the sun's gravity, which suggested it was just traveling through. No crisp photos could be taken, but astronomers were able to train their telescopes on the object for 11 days, collecting reams of other data. At first, they thought it was an ordinary comet, but Loeb said that assumption ran the risk of allowing the familiar to define what we might discover. He asked what would happen if a caveman saw a cell phone? He has seen rocks all his life. He would have thought it was just a shiny rock. Loeb soon opened his mind to another possibility. It was not a comet, but discarded technology from an alien civilization. A number of unusual properties about the object help Loeb make this conclusion. First were its dimensions. Astronomers looked at the way the object reflected sunlight. Its brightness varied tenfold over 8 hours, suggesting that was the amount of time it took to complete a full rotation. Scientists concluded the object was at least 5 to 10 times longer than it was wide, like the shape of a cigar. No naturally occurring space body we've ever seen has looked like it, or even close. This would make Oumuamua's geometry more extreme by at least a few times in aspect ratio, the ratio of its width to its height, than the most extreme asteroids or comets we've ever seen, Loeb writes. The author writes, what's more, Oumuamua was unusually bright. It was at least 10 times more reflective than typical solar system asteroids or comets. He likens its surface to that of shiny metal. But the anomaly that really pushed Loeb toward his ET hypothesis was the way it moved. The excess push away from the sun. That was the thing that broke the camel's back, he said. Using physics, scientists can calculate the exact path an object should take and the speed it should travel due to the gravitational force exerted by the sun. The sun's pull will speed up an object massively as it gets closer, then kick it out the other side, only for the object to slow considerably as it gets farther away. But Oumuamua did not follow this calculated trajectory. In fact, as it moved away from the sun, it accelerated slightly, but to a highly statistically significant extent. In other words, it was clearly being pushed by a force besides the sun's gravity. At first, the explanation seemed simple. Comets show a similar acceleration because as they approach the sun, their surface is warmed, releasing once frozen gases, which act like a rocket engine. Those released materials, however, form a comet's distinctive tail. Scientists looked carefully for that tail or any sign of gases or dust that might propel Oumuamua, but they didn't see any. Loeb calculated that with these and other anomalies, the chances that Oumuamua was some random comet was around 1 in 1 quadrillion, leading him to his blockbuster hypothesis. But what was it exactly? One possibility, weirdly enough, could be found in technology we already have here on Earth. Some 400 years ago, astronomer Johannes Kepler observed comet tails blowing in what looked like a solar breeze and wondered if that same force could propel rocket ships through space like the wind pushes boats through water. It was a smart idea that scientists now use to develop light sails for probes. Thin reflective sheeting is unfurled in space to capture the particles streaming off the sun, propelling a ship at great speeds through the empty void. Loeb was involved in a light sail project to send tiny unmanned craft to a nearby star. Said if we Earthlings have thought of this idea, then why couldn't aliens? He had a colleague crunch the numbers, and they hypothesized that Oumuamua was not actually cigar-shaped, but possibly a disc, less than a millimeter thick, with sail-like proportions, that would account for its unusual acceleration as it moved away from the sun. As to its purpose, Loeb isn't entirely sure. Okay, let's check out some art.
In October 2017, something entered our solar system. Something ancient, something silent, and humanity barely noticed. We named it Oumuamua. We thought it was a rock, a wanderer between stars. But it was something much more. Oumuamua was not a natural object. It was a machine. A relic of a forgotten civilization sent across the void to tend the garden of life. A gardener, not of plants, but of evolution. As it passed near Earth, it activated. Invisible dust scattered across our atmosphere. Micro-engineered particles carrying silent instructions. Not to destroy, not to invade, but to change. Seeded microscopic changes, subtle mutations, new pathways in the tree of life. No one noticed, not at first. 2 years later, at the end of 2019, a new appeared. It spread fast. It revealed weaknesses. It forced evolution to accelerate. We called it. But it was not punishment. It was not war. It was a correction. Oumuamua did not wait for thanks or recognition. Its mission was not to communicate. It was to act. And when its task was done, it slipped away, back into the dark, silent depths between stars. Most scientists dismissed the idea. Coincidence, they said. But a few, hidden away in their labs, saw the patterns. The changes were too precise, too timely. Someone or something had intervened. We are not the masters of our fate. We are the subjects of an ancient experiment. And Oumuamua was only one caretaker among many. Somewhere out there, more machines drift, more gardeners watch. And when the time comes, they will return to prune, to correct, to guide. Life evolves, but not by its own hand.
Here at AstroEngine.com is a story entitled, Where is Planet X? Where is Nemesis? And the author begins, before Pluto was discovered, the world's astronomers were captivated by the possibility of finding another massive planet beyond the orbit of Neptune. In 1930, Pluto was discovered, lurking in what was considered to be the edge of the solar system. However, it became quickly apparent that Pluto was tiny. It was not the planet X for which we were looking. For the last 80 years, astronomers have been looking for a large planet that might go to some way of explaining interplanetary features, such as the Kuiper Cliff. But Planet X has not yet been found. Unfortunately, the term Planet X has now become synonymous with conspiracy theories, almost as notorious as the word nemesis. Nemesis is another unanswered question hanging over the solar system. Does the sun have a binary twin? Is there a second, dim, hidden sun stalking its brighter counterpart from over a light year away? Some scientists have come forward to suggest that the existence of a hypothetical second sun, embodied as a brown dwarf or red dwarf, could explain some cyclical effects here on Earth, such as mass extinctions occurring with strange regularity. Naturally, the discussion about Nemesis, like the discussion about Planet X, is purely academic, and only based on indirect observations. Just because they might exist don't mean they do. But in a publication recently published, one Italian researcher has dusted off this topic and asked a very basic question. Can we constrain the possible locations of Nemesis or Planet X if they do exist? His results are fascinating. It's nice to find a scientific publication about the possible existence of an unaccounted for planet in the solar system. The majority of articles I've written in the past 12 months have been examining the pseudoscience. For some strange reason, certain unscrupulous authors have pinned every conceivable global doomsday event on a mythical planet that will be arriving at the inner solar system on December 21st. In fact, Planet X was originally the search for a massive planet beyond the orbit of Neptune in the pre-Pluto era. Planet X is in fact the exciting astronomical journey the world took in the early 20th century, which culminated in the discovery of Pluto. Oh, where's this Italian guy's stuff? Percival Lowell, Kuiper Belt, Sun's Evil Twin. Where's the Italian dude? Nemesis, and in conclusion. I guess there's only one mention of the Italian dude. All right. Searching for Planet X. Since Percival Lowell's suggestion that there might be another planet out there perturbing the orbit of Neptune, the hunt for another planet was intense. The discovery of Pluto by Clyde Tombaugh in 1930 appeared to validate Lowell's theory. However, by the 1970s, it was found that Pluto was too small to account for any perturbations in any planet's orbit, let alone the gas giant Neptune. And as time went on and techniques became more advanced, the possible perturbations in Neptune's orbit were put down to observational error. There was no longer any need for Planet X. A hypothetical planetary body was no longer required to account for orbital perturbations. However, observations of the Kuiper Belt have reinvigorated the hunt for Planet X, where X simply means unknown. The Kuiper Belt is a region of space in the neighborhood of Pluto, where lots of icy rocky bodies have been discovered. As we have become rather good at observing small objects on our doorstep, we've actually become rather good at observing objects in other star systems as well. We have been able to plot the distribution of Kuiper Belt objects, or KBOs. It is in this distribution that a feature has been observed. At approximately 50 astronomical units, there's a sudden drop in the KBO population. This has become known as the Kuiper Cliff, and it possibly reveals that there is some significantly sized planetary body bigger than Pluto but smaller than the Earth, orbiting at a distance of 100 astronomical units from the Sun. We have yet to discover anything that big shepherding the Kuiper Belt, but the cliff is real, beyond 55 astronomical units. Other researchers have indicated that there may be a small planet orbiting at 60 astronomical units, possibly explaining the behavior of trans-Neptunian objects, or TNOs, or a massive planet 50% larger than Jupiter, patrolling a region of space over 1,000 astronomical units distant. However, there still is no strong evidence to support these theories, and there are certainly no observations of these possibilities. Let's check out that art.
Mars, just like the Earth, is a rocky planet. Same as Venus, Mercury, and, well, some other planets from our solar system's past. 4.5 billion years ago, the solar system went from having several dozen rocky planets to almost none. It was all because of Jupiter, whose orbital change caused their destruction or expulsion from the solar system.
Hey, you're the eldest planet, right?
Yeah, my name's Jupiter. That one over there is Saturn. Hello!
So, this is all of us then? The 4 planets of the solar system?
So, you never met the rocky planets. I mean, they are in formation, but soon they'll be fully fledged planets like us. Guys, not too close, please.
You're joking, mate. How are these things like us? Yeah, they're super tiny.
Well, as long as they are celestial bodies, not a star, and they orbit a star like ours, they are considered planets.
Oh.
Hey there, little one. You're gonna be all right. Me and everyone else will take good care of... No, no, no! It happened again!
Ooh, right in the face, mate. This universe can be so cruel sometimes.
What's going on, guys?
We just witnessed a rocky planet getting destroyed by an asteroid. It was so messed up. Yeah, unless they find a way to handle these asteroids, the rocky planets become the rocky tombstones, if anything. That was dark. I know, mate. Wow! What was that?
Hey, are you okay? Yeah, just using my gravity to keep the little ones safe. Until I see a new generation of rocky planets, I will not stop. Jupiter became a big cosmic bouncer. He kept the asteroid belt contained between his orbit and later on the orbit of Mars. He also prevented any new planets from forming inside the belt, so it became a solitary, mostly empty place, with one exception.
Here at Gaia.com is an article by Gaia staff called The Hollow Moon Theory. Is the moon an artificial satellite? And the staff writers begin. The Apollo moon missions and subsequent moon landings have been at the center of controversy and conspiracy for years. There has been an interminable debate as to whether we actually landed on the moon, what was found there, and to what extent NASA has been hiding information from us. But amid the quarreling and speculation, the number of anomalous features on the moon has puzzled scientists and conspiracy theorists alike. Toward the latter end of the Apollo moon missions, NASA astronauts placed seismic recording devices on the lunar surface to document artificial and natural moonquakes. Their equipment recorded activity ranging from meteorite strikes to man-made explosions and crash landings of Apollo rockets. Even the sun's heat created seismic activity when it caused the moon to thaw on a daily basis. The astronauts were given a series of ALSEPs, or Apollo Lunar Surface Equipment packages, to set up seismographs and initiate detonations, ranging from shotgun-like charges to mortars with multiple grenades. Just the thing you want to carry with you on a trip to the moon. Eventually, NASA intentionally crash-landed the Apollo 12 module as well, and the SIVB rocket, setting off an explosive force equivalent to nearly 12 tons of TNT. What they found was that the moon rings like a bell, reverberating sometimes for hours at a time. Not knowing much about the moon's material composition, NASA and the Apollo astronauts were astounded by what they heard, and the results it entailed. Clearly, the moon's density was significantly less than that of Earth. The moon is a little more than 1/4 the size of Earth, another bizarre characteristic compared to any other natural satellite in our region. Of all the moons in the solar system, ours is the 5th largest. No other planet of which we're aware has a moon that is proportionately as big as ours. All other planets with moons that size are massive gas giants. Neptune, the closest in size with a moon that big, is 4 times the size of Earth. The moon is about 2,100 miles in diameter, compared to Earth's nearly 8,000-mile diameter. Yet the mass of the moon is only 1% of Earth's, while the volume of the moon is only 2% of Earth's. After NASA conducted these tests, it concluded that the moon has a similar composition to our planet, although significantly less dense.
First, reports are coming in that the moon, or night sun, is currently out in daytime. To get some answers, we're going to go live to our meteorologist in the field, Dan. Dan?
You guys see this shit? The moon is just f***ing out in the goddamn daytime. I am losing it.
Specifically.
It's not even nighttime, you guys. It is fully 3:12 p.m., just straight up afternoon time, and the moon is out.
Do you have any idea what might be going on?
No, I know what the f***ing sun is, Michael. The sun is over there, and the moon is over there at the same time. They are looking at each other. They're not even supposed to know that the other one exists. This is illegal. Tell your wife you love her. Hold your kids just a little tighter. Have that affair with your hot-ass neighbor you've been dreaming about. I can't say for sure that this is the end times, but surely no good can come from this. We are in uncharted waters, friends, and there is no telling what's gonna happen next, because the moon is out. It is 3 p.m.
Thank you, Dan.